his might have been a congressional hearing, but the results weren't what mattered. His name was probably permanently tarnished. I think that's true of Bonds. I think that's true of Clemens. Again, more for the media and for the Hall of Fame electorate than it is for the fans as a whole. But the media have, the Hall of Fame electorate in general, and there are plenty of exceptions, have appointed themselves moral guardians of the sport and decided that it doesn't matter that Bonds was the best hitter of his generation, Clemens was the best pitcher of his generation. That won't matter. We're not going to put them in the Hall of Fame because we've decided the cathedral here is closed to anyone who doesn't meet our moral guidelines. To me, it's not a Hall of Fame if Bonds and Clemens aren't in it. You might as well just tear the building down. You cannot simply exclude the best hitter and the best pitcher. You could argue Clemens, Maddox, whatever, one of the two best pitchers of his generation. There's no credible argument that those guys don't belong in the Hall of Fame, and it is an incomplete monument to the sport without those two guys in it. Now, I don't have a vote. I've got 6.5 years left, I guess, until
That's
I get a
all,
vote.
6 years. Yep.
No. But you know what? They'll probably both be on the ballot at that point.
They'll still be there. Absolutely.
In which case, I'll vote for them both. The only one of all the steroid guys I wouldn't vote for is Palmeiro. And the reason for that is that I actually never thought his Hall of Fame case was that strong. He was an accumulator, but his peak wasn't really a peak. He was very good for a very long time, but to me, he never reached that elite level. He has very little black ink on his stats page. Could you ever have argued he was the best player in baseball, one of the top 5 players in baseball, best at his position? No, I didn't think you could have. So to me, his case was very borderline. And I'm comfortable in that one situation looking at the PED accusation and saying, you know what, I was kind of leaning against anyway. This just pushes me firmly into the no camp. He's the only guy where I would look at it and say that this mattered to my opinion of the player.
And with him, do you factor in that he tested positive after testing was implemented? Sort of, I guess it's a Manny Ramirez scenario as well. I can at least see why people would view those two a little differently. Clemens, McGuire, Sammy Sosa, if we think he did anything, these were in the pre-testing days. Bonds, of course.
They never failed a test. Yeah. That's been I know Joe Sheehan was making that argument early on, and a lot of us have adopted it since then, which is how can you vote with such certainty about guys who've never failed a test? I mean, he came up with Bagwell, who's not only never failed a test, but never really been credibly accused, but had voters not voting for him because they just figured he probably did. Well, he looks like he used, which to me was the most reprehensible action of all. I mean, at that point, you've ceded your moral right to vote.
Yes,
because you're acting on an absence of evidence.
He had big muscles, come on, people. Yeah. Well, okay, it'll be interesting to see what happens there down the road.